on. No. Are you filming? No, it's not turning on. Mine's in, oh. Okay, good morning, Multnomah Village, week 87, Justice for Qadira.
Good morning.
And we're really tired because this is really exhausting what we're doing here.
But we're committed.
We're committed. We're going to keep going. Last Friday, we were criminally cited by the Portland police for speaking out against this cover-up. I don't know how we were criminally cited because it's a free speech event, so we shouldn't be criminally cited. So we have...
I do want to add, though, the citation was not based on an Oregon statute, so it's not a real ticket. So we're just being harassed by the city, and that's not okay.
And so we're not sure what's going to happen when we show up to court.
We know what's going to happen. These people are going to tell us to get out of the court because they don't actually have us violating any kind of law.
Well, we hope. We'll see what they choose to do because there's a lot of corruption in our courts. So we will see what happens. But certainly, taxpayers don't need to be paying police to be personal henchmen to cover up crimes for people. So there's a way if the people engaged in this protest are trying to tell the community these people aren't being honest and they want it shut down, they can file a defamation suit. There's a legal avenue for that. But it's really inappropriate for people to use the police as their personal henchmen. Now, of course, the issue is here. Nobody can file a defamation suit because we're telling the truth. But again, our concern about what happened Friday is we did turn some sensitive information over to the police in the last month about the perpetrators of this specific crime. And I'm just going to be honest with you guys. It's pretty terrible what we've discovered, and they are doing absolutely nothing about it. Absolutely nothing about it.
Still protecting these people, even though what we discovered shows these people to be
everything we've been saying.
Yeah, just
and
basically.
So it's very disturbing because again, here we are living in this community with this ongoing trauma and. Again, law enforcement just will not do their job. I don't know who they're working for here. It'd be very interesting to get an investigation because it'd be nice to know who the top dog is here in this cover-up. But the state at this point is engaged in some pretty inappropriate behavior. I also want to talk about today the fact that my brother is currently being maliciously prosecuted by the state. We're here in Portland, Oregon, where people can't even get crimes investigated, looked into. Most people don't even get picked up on all kinds of offenses. Well, I think the public should know, since the media won't cover it. My brother was picked up on a first offense. He's 50 years old. He was picked up on a first offense 3.5 years ago on November 14th after having a medical emergency because he had been slipped roofie while he was aiding a homeless man in his home. So he woke up in a blacked out state. He was in the street waving a child's t-ball bat around, okay? And he wandered onto a construction site where there was several illegals working, and there was a commotion. And the people there beat my brother within a half inch of his life, but he was arrested, okay? Well, first he was taken to the hospital. And then the police came and picked him up there. They actually plucked him out of the hospital against medical advice and threw him into jail. And he hasn't been able to get any help since. They're charging him with all kinds of things, even though there is a medical report showing he had a medical emergency.
And before they actually knew who he was only being charged. His worst offense was criminal mischief too. But obviously, after finding out who he was, he has 8 charges against him, 4 of which are Measure 11 crimes.
Exactly. And the victim in this case, the alleged victim, is an illegal alien who already admitted that a ladder fell on his head at work that day because they had 2 32-foot construction ladders pushed up against a little fence. And so I don't know how one of the ladders came down. He didn't say in his grand jury testimony. But this guy has already been paid handsomely by the Safe Corporation. He got $54,000 and U.S. citizenship now to testify against my brother.
That's right. He's on a Jew visa.
Yes, they're claiming my brother's hollowed out T-ball bat is what did the damage to the guy, and not the 32-foot construction ladder. But what the taxpayers need to know here is that the DA has spent 3.5 years prosecuting this case. So I'm talking thousands of dollars. They imprisoned my brother for 1.5 years. They locked him up in the hospital where they proceeded to tell him, doctors, there's a whole report on this, told him repeatedly that none of this ever happened. You know, that we're not really out here protesting, that he doesn't have a niece that was burned, all of this stuff. So while he was actually in the hospital trying to get himself recentered in reality, they were telling him that things that were true were not even true. So he was being abused within the state hospital. So now he is actually representing himself. He had counsel from the state, but his attorney literally was trying to get him to withhold. Well, both sides are trying to withhold the medical report that shows that my brother was having a medical emergency that day, and that he had a high level of benzodiazepines in his system. And so they've just been going after him and going after him and going after him. I mean, because we're out here. So,
I mean, that's what we believe.
That's what it looks like. He also was set with an excessive bail of $500,000. I mean, we're talking about in a city where people can't even get picked up, where people commit multiple crimes and are let right back out of jail. But here my brother, a black man, on a first offense after having been a victim of a crime himself, has been being harassed by the state for 3.5 years. So there is another hearing in his case next week. He is representing himself. He is facing 40 years in prison. With Judge Nan Waller at 11 a.m. on Tuesday, they are trying to get any mention of this protest or anything that has happened to our family, or, you know, this entire thing. They want it all stricken, and they say he can't. Yeah, they want it all suppressed. They say he can't talk about it. So the abuse continues from the state here, and I just don't know when people are going to get involved, but our public institutions should not be being used like this. It's very, very concerning. I mean, after we saw what happened to our daughter in the Multnomah County Court, now we're witnessing this going on with my brother in the Multnomah County Court. So this is really, 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 really concerning, and we're just trying to inform the public because the media won't. And this is not an appropriate use of taxpayer funds. You know what I'm saying? So, I couldn't even.
No, he's just trying to.
That guy. Well, anyway, so we're really tired because we've been dealing with this and dealing with this and dealing with this. This is 16 years of ongoing traumatic stress being foisted upon our family because this politician's relative molested and burned up our daughter, and now everybody is just gung-ho on covering it up because the hospitals didn't treat her, the courts ran a fraudulent proceeding, and I think it's really disingenuous of our own White House. You know, everybody keeps talking about January 6th and how these people interfered, how those protesters there interfered with a lawful proceeding. Well, what happened in our daughter's case, that was interference of a lawful proceeding. There is interference going on right now and obstruction of justice as we speak. As, like I said, we've turned over all this new information about these people that was collected legally, by the way, and they are hiding it from the public and doing nothing, and in fact have the nerve to tell us that it doesn't mean anything. So it's scary to think that people like that are just being protected and left in our communities. And, you know, because the whole end game here for the people in charge is just keeping this covered up. They want to keep running the system the way it is, even though
it's hurting people.
It's hurting people, and this type of corruption goes on. I mean, we were subjected. Now that we are helping our brother with his case on the criminal side, we're really, really, really beginning to see the meat and potatoes of what went wrong with our daughter's case. Even though my brother had been drugged and he has proof of that, they're still trying to claim that he knowingly and intentionally hit this person with this T-ball bat, which is, again, absolutely ridiculous because a T-ball bat is not going to cause $54,000 of damage. It's also very suspicious because the illegal alien, not only did he get paid out by the Safe Corporation while he was illegal, before he was extended the U visa to testify against my brother, he mysteriously only took 2 days off of work. So I don't know how you take 2 days off of work but have $54,000 of medical damage. It's all not adding up here. But what I do know is taxpayer funds have been being used for almost 4 years to prosecute this case when this whole city looks like shit. And it's very unfair because watching him go through this, be maliciously prosecuted, lose everything when he hardly had anything. Now he's stuck defending himself because his public defender was literally working for the state. So I sat in with him to talk to his public defender and stuff, me and my husband have, and we've personally witnessed this guy trying to strong-arm our brother into not even using the medical report that shows his innocence. They're trying to get that stricken from the record.
Yeah, it would literally prove his innocence, but they won't let him. They don't want him to be able to bring it to the court.
Who among us wants to pay $60,000 a year to lock up somebody for 40 years who has done nothing? Simply because the state, they're just coming down on our family. They don't want to do anything about this, and I just want to let everybody know, it is not our daughter's fault, and it is not our fault that this happened to us. We absolutely had no power in this situation. We have sought help from our public officials in an appropriate manner over and over and over. We are seeking help now. We just went back to law enforcement because we don't believe in taking matters into our own hands. There doesn't seem to be any law enforcement here in Portland, and there hasn't seemed to have been any law enforcement for a long time. There also, surprisingly, doesn't seem to be any media. It's like literally living in China, except for I guess we can stand on the corner and speak. Maybe over in China we've been disappeared already, but we feel pretty disappeared here. And I'm trying to understand it. One of the things that I keep running into when I communicate with people online, because that seems to be the best space to communicate with people, is there is an undeniable racial component to this story that this story cannot be told without talking about the racism involved, because the people who did this to our daughter were very racist. Her skin tone was referred to as an infirm condition. I never even heard something like that before.
That was by her own attorney
until Scott Kotcher. Yeah, until Scott Kotcher uttered those words. I mean, I don't know if this is something, the KKK uses, a term they use, but infirm condition, why would you say that about somebody's skin color? Skin tone. That makes no sense.
You're basically saying that this person's skin color is a disease.
So there's actual on-the-record evidence of that. Even the dirty Judge Michael McShane, who was involved in this, he even admonished Scott and said, it's going to be pretty distasteful if you argue to the jury that your client's skin tone is an infirm condition. You can't make this stuff up. So for those of you who are white and who are not getting involved with this because you think, oh, maybe we are making this just about race, the story here, there's a racial component, but the story really here is corruption. And that needs to be your main concern, because people are going into the courts every day seeking justice. And my brother has already run into judges who are involved in the cover-up of the abuse of my daughter. So how scary for him. I mean, he had a medical emergency. He blacked out. He was actually blacked out for 2 months. So he woke up in the clutches of the state, and they have just been coming down on him. It's unbelievable. They tortured him in prison. There's actually a report showing that he was tortured at the state hospital. I mean, if you send somebody to the state hospital and they are struggling to grasp reality, and you send them from jail to the state hospital to supposedly help them, why would you continually, multiple medical providers tell them that something that is very, very real and that happened to them, why would you repeatedly tell them it didn't happen? I mean, my brother was in there grasping for his sanity. This report is absolutely, I can't even believe it was generated by a state official, but I guess nothing surprises me anymore.
No, we're not surprised.
I'm not, I mean, in terms of them coming after our family, but what's really unfair is we didn't do this. I mean, when we took our daughter to the hospital, all they needed to do was call the police and DHS. It was out of our hands. And anybody could have done it. Her school, the doctors, the police, they could have done an investigation after the fraudulent trial. When we went to the police, there have been multiple instances of an opportunity
yes,
to put this baby to rest. But now it's really hard watching my brother over and over and over. He was actually supposed to go to trial yesterday on Monday. And we get to the court, and the judge is just beating up on him, and he was very nervous because he's facing 40 years. And suddenly there was concerns about his fitness to proceed, and I'll tell you why. Because it looked like they were maliciously prosecuting him, and I don't know that bringing in a jury was going to be very beneficial to the state. You know, so now what they're trying to do is basically have my brother deemed unfit and then bring back in the attorney who is going to hide the evidence of his innocence. They want him either in a deal or they want him locked up, but they don't want anybody seeing the medical report that shows he was beaten by these illegal aliens within a half an inch of his life, okay, and drugged by a homeless man. I mean, it's really unconscionable what's going on here, and we want to put a stop to it. I mean, my brother, it looks like he's going to be politically imprisoned, honestly, all because all these other people tampered with the system, you know, and then I see
are still.
Yeah, and I see the J6 protesters, they're all locked up for apparently trying to interfere with the lawful process when the people here in Oregon who literally did interfere with the lawful process and who had the authority to interfere with the lawful process and who continue to interfere with the lawful process, they don't have to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's interesting to me, the people who were protesting, they're not judges on benches, they're not doctors, they're not attorneys, they were just citizens. You know what I'm saying? And they're just being locked up for years on end for I think it was stupid for everybody to go down there. I mean, I watched the whole thing unfold on TV, and the minute Trump said, everybody go run down there, I was like, yeah, buddy, you go first. And of course he didn't, because whatever. I'm not going to get into that. I wouldn't have done it, is my point.
He wasn't going to be involved in a crime and committing a crime.
Right.
He knew that.
Yeah,
but he was fine with leading others to that.
Exactly. So that's too bad. But my point is the real people who need to be picked up for interfering with the lawful process are the people involved with this. And there's a lot of people who signed off on this cover-up. And I'm sorry, but it's not our problem that everybody else was abusing their power and abusing our daughter.
And abusing the system.
And took it so far. You know, I mean, not only has this not been investigated, but I mean, our biggest issue here is that our daughter was not treated at the hospital. And these doctors are still working. I mean, that's not okay. And then Scott Kocher, again, another piece of information we turned over in the last few weeks is we found out he had a underage relationship with Todd's brother, Rex Burkholder, who, I think he was the Southwest City Commissioner for a while. He brings a lot of money into the state. Scott is not getting his license taken. He just gets to commit crimes and, all this, that, and the third. I mean, I don't know how we get this resolved, but sending, the police down to give us criminal tickets for freely speaking, that's not the way to get it done. I also thought it was really inappropriate. One of the cops screamed in my husband's face. It's on tape. Screamed in his face, "I don't care about your daughter." I mean, you can see that. What is wrong with these people? It's like, you did the crime, you did the time. I mean, me and my husband are just telling you what happened, okay? The laws should just go into effect. I mean, judges, attorneys, all this, they shouldn't be able to rig up hospitals. Doctors should not be able to throw burned up children out of the hospital and get away with it. And I want to talk about one other thing that's been going on here because, I got locked out of my Twitter account the other day. I mean, the amount of abuse me and my husband undergo for speaking up about our daughter is shocking. The amount of insults that we receive is shocking. And I want to tell you, I worry about the children on this planet because our daughter, like, we are her only advocates. We've been her only advocates for 16 years. Nobody else would help us, not with her injuries, psychological issues, financial, doesn't matter. She was completely disregarded and thrown out like, you know, a piece of, like
garbage.
just garbage,
Like a piece of
disposable
garbage.
napkin, whatever, from the state. And, you know, for people to tell us that we need to stop seeking justice, to say dismissive things like, get over it, she lived, so what? I mean, first of all, she has lifetime damages, okay? Because not being treated for a severe burn, usually you're going to end up dead.
And she almost did die, folks.
And she did almost die, you know, about 4 years after the incident. And yes, it is all connected and related, because OHSU never treated her. That's what the record shows.
The lady that just, you know, gave us the middle finger.
Rude.
Ma'am, listen, you're not helping. You're not helping. If you would like us to go away, there is a responsible way to get this addressed so that we don't have to be here anymore. But you're not helping by cussing at us or, you know, plugging your ears, making it seem like we shouldn't be here talking about this.
It's so disrespectful and it's gross, because my question is to every parent on this planet, if your child was abused, is that really what that's your next course of action? You're going to get over it? You're not going to speak of it? You're not going to try to help your child? Maybe that's why so many people are piling up in the streets, because people just don't care about their kids at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, we live in this culture of just me, and people literally have children and they don't care about them. And then they tell other people to not care about their children. I mean, that woman who just came by here thumbing her nose, acting like a 2-year-old, what was she, like a 60, 65-year-old white woman? What's her problem? You know what I'm saying? Why would you ever discourage anybody from fighting for their abused child? What's going on in your sick mind that you would do that? I'd like to know. And I'd like you to find Jesus if you can. If you can.
Folks, I also want to go back to the racial component. Okay, we're about 90% white here in Oregon. In this community, we're about 98% white, okay, in this particular community. Folks, what it looks like is, and this is what it feels like to me and my wife, we were targeted, okay? Our daughter was targeted for abuse because they knew, okay, that this community would not be very empathetic or sympathetic to her abuse and our plight for justice for her. They knew that. They knew that. That's why they did it, and they did it in broad daylight. They did it blatantly, and they did it so everybody could see. They even made an example of us. And you know what we feel like is they were doing this to get us to leave. Now, folks, we're in 2023, okay? We have already established as a race of beings that diversity is something that we want here in our race, okay? That's something that we want to foster
in our society.
In our society. But folks, that is not what is happening here in Oregon. Here in Oregon, it seems like not only do you want to keep the place white, but you want to make it whiter. Okay, you should be trying to attract more diversity here, not get rid of it, not treat it like garbage. Okay, we're 2023.
Wait. And I also want to say this, what another big concern of mine is, don't let the racial component stop you from getting involved, because don't let somebody else's racism, don't let that be a reflection of who you are. You see what I'm saying? Because the people who did this to our daughter, they were very racist, and they're specific individuals, but you don't have to choose to follow them down that road. Okay, this is not a reflection on every white person on the planet that this happened. But it is a reflection of the people who did that, and they do happen to all be white, you know, except for Adrienne Nelson, but she, you know, again, who knows who she got her marching orders from, but I will say she was the one black face amongst a sea of an ocean of white in terms of covering this crime up. And then she was rewarded handsomely, as everybody has been. I don't know why people in Portland here are putting up with this. And then we don't want to put this in the media. We don't want to talk about this. We want to pretend it away. And you just can't pretend this away.
No, you can't. And folks, like my wife was saying, okay, the people that did this to our family, they're racist, but their racism does not have to reflect upon you, but it does reflect upon you when you stand there and you do nothing about this. Okay?
Exactly.
If you're a white person, you should want something done about this. You should want this to be responsibly and appropriately addressed, especially because it is happening to people of color in your community.
Yeah, this is your community, so what do you really want for your community?
Do you want diversity? Do you want diversity? Okay, because right now, I'm telling you, you are trying to drive it out, and that is not good. That's not good for any community.
I also want to say it's very interesting, you know, in the last decade, basically, it's become very popular to just affirm people in their beliefs. That's what we're supposed to do. You're just supposed to, that's the whole medical directive. Affirm, affirm, affirm. That's what I hear. Well, why can't we be affirmed and acknowledged in this? You know, I mean, it is our belief, and this can actually be backed up with actual facts. We have proof that this occurred.
That's why they don't want to give us a day in court. They're not going to file a defamation or libel or slander suit against us because they know we can back this up with facts. And they just don't want this in the court. They don't want this to be able to be validated in any way, shape, or form. No, but they know what they did, and they know what they're covering up, and they know what they're doing.
Exactly. And they don't want to talk about this because, again, they just don't want to have to go back in and put the checks and balances into the court and into our system. You know, if we take a hard look at this case, they're going to have to do something to make sure that this type of corruption isn't just, you know, willy-nilly going on in the courts. And I'm really concerned. I mean, we were subjected to a rigged trial. It was rigged. There was nothing real about it.
And it was rigged around a child, okay? The most vulnerable among us. That's who they did this to. They didn't do it to my wife and I. I mean, they did it to us by proxy, but they used our daughter to get it done.
They exploited our daughter, and now when my brother, he's standing before the judge in the court, and he's saying, the court did this to my niece, and they're saying none of this matters. While they're in the midst of maliciously prosecuting him. I mean, again, he had one charge when he went in, and now he's got 8 charges. He got $500,000 bail. It took almost $27,000 to bail him out of jail on a first offense, like I said, which was just criminal mischief. Because again, when the police showed up, he was transported first to the hospital because he'd been beaten and within a half inch of his life, pretty much, and drugged. You know, so they're just trying to hide that evidence because again, this is about emotionally distressing our family. They've been working real hard to get us to commit a crime, and they know that we are followers of Jesus and that we're not going to do that. So I don't know if there's also an element of religious prosecution going on here. People don't like Jesus, except for y'all need him. You know what I'm saying?
It seems like there's a bunch
as far as I'm concerned, Jesus is the reason for the season. But everybody around here, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But
it seems like there's a lot of Satan worshipers here, folks.
We are devout followers of Jesus. So is my brother. We're not violent people. So I don't know what happened to all the people who say they believe in Jesus. They don't come around here, but or help us. But we have been turning the other cheek, and we've been doing that right in front of you because we do practice our faith. Okay, so I don't understand why we're not getting any help. Not a single attorney. Citizens won't help. Activists won't help. Nobody will help. I mean, in this case, there has been zero regard for the victim. Zero regard for the victim. What most people do is spew their hate onto me and my husband because we're talking about this and making an issue of it. And it's really concerning because I think when parents stand up for their kids if they're abused, usually it's the protective parent that people try to silence because they don't even want to hear about this. And that is why child abuse is rampant all over the world. I guess because the adults on this planet want the right to abuse children and kill children and hurt children and rape children. And we need to have that discussion because here in our community, this happened to an 8-year-old second grader, and this is supposed to be a nice, civilized community. Yet, this very barbaric, inhumane thing happened here. You know, and never mind we're in the modern world where she could have been transported to a modern burn center and given all the help she needed after she was the victim of this horrific assault. And she hasn't even gotten so much as an apology, you know, and that I don't want that to be a reflection of this community. I want this community to change. You know what I'm saying? Because for all of you that have been running past here, spewing your hate or ignoring this, you know, you need Jesus, okay? And I think you should probably pray tonight to Jesus to change your heart on this matter, because I think he's the only one that can get that job done, you know, if you will submit to him, really. Because I don't know what kind of hate you have to harbor in your heart to not want to see our child, our daughter, get justice. That is the disease that is affecting our community right now. You know, this covert hate and people want to say, oh, I just don't have time for that. I'm too busy. I'm this, I'm that, or the other. If you are too busy to show compassion towards a child, you're not really, you're not evolving very much. It's very sad.
We're going in the wrong direction.
We're going in the wrong direction.
We're going in the wrong direction.
And we need to be thinking about this, because I really do believe that our children are in peril. I mean, we live in a society, like I said, where it's, you know, people are just supposed to be affirmed in their beliefs and affirmed in who they are, and let me be my true self. Well, we are being our true selves when we are standing out here telling you that we're not going to go along with this, okay? And we see that you want us silenced, and law enforcement wants us silenced, and everybody wants us to shut up and go away. But that's your choice to ignore this. It's your decision if you don't want to fight for your abused child, if your child is abused or whatever, or it's your choice to not care about this. But we care about it. We've cared about it since the day it happened, and we're going to continue to care about it. You know, because one of the things that was, one of the rumors that was spread behind our back after our daughter was burned is we're just dirty black people that don't care about our daughter.
So we're exploiting her for money.
We were exploiting her for money. I actually was accused of that just the other day on Twitter. Oh, you're just exploiting your daughter. No, we're not exploiting our daughter. We are advocating for our daughter.
No, we have only ever paid, okay?
We don't make money doing this.
For our daughter. That's all we've ever done.
We've taken risk after risk. This book I published is full of names of corrupt officials who should be arrested and removed from their positions of power. But people can't seem to get past the race issue here. But it's you guys that aren't getting past the race issue. Me and my husband are over it. We just happen to be people of color, okay? But the real story here is the corruption and your tax dollars being used to manipulate you and abuse people in the court where the rules should be followed to the best of their ability. We need our courthouses to be clean, or our society will devolve down into complete, utter chaos like it is now. This is not okay, okay? So we wish the media would cover this. I don't know where the media is. Why? Why does this place feel like China or North Korea? Why? It's very scary. We can't get the left to look at this. We can't get the right to look at this. The Democrats ignore it. The Republicans ignore it. Everybody just wants to talk about their little hot button issues, but this is out there. And I'm telling you, a close look at this case. I mean, Judge McShane, Rudy Lockemeyer, and Scott Kocher, they exploited our daughter and rigged a trial. Who else are they doing this kind of stuff to? Because
we know we're not the only ones, folks.
Yeah, people who don't have resources, they just just get silenced. I'm watching them do it to my brother.
They get railroaded.
If people would come to this hearing, you would see. They tell him, he says, well, what about my niece? What about the fact that these people who burned her never even had to talk to the police? You know what they tell to my brother? They say, shut up, Mr. Lloyd. You can't talk about that.
That doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter. Your niece doesn't matter. You be quiet, Mr. Lloyd. All we're talking about here is what you did, Mr. Lloyd. They manhandle him and abuse him. But then they sit there and they take funds from you and they say, oh, we're setting up these places for equity and justice and we care about people of color in our community, and it's all lies. And they pick your pocket to do it. People who actually care are getting their money stolen and giving to organizations that are doing nothing, because I've contacted them all. It's very disturbing, and it's very disturbing to see them harassing my brother like this. And then my daughter came forward to the police just a couple weeks ago when the new information came out. They're ignoring her. They treat her like trash. They don't care that this sensitive information has surfaced about these people that molested and burned her. They don't care. And they are so dismissive and nasty. And I'm just glad me and my husband are who we are, because I really do believe that they are trying to incite this violence in our communities.
Yeah, you are. Thanks.
Okay. I don't know what.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we just had another one, folks.
That guy just drove by and called us sick motherfuckers. I don't get it. People who, so many people, they don't take care of their marriages. They don't take care of their kids. They don't even try. You know what I'm saying? Then we're out here fighting for our kid, and instead of people being like, yes, somebody is fighting for their child. Somebody cares about their child. Somebody's actually sticking around for their child. No support?
No.
This is why I say, y'all need Jesus. You really need Jesus. You need to go home. You need to ask Jesus into your heart. You need to ask Jesus into your heart. You need to wash your heart. You need to come to Jesus. This entire country needs to come to Jesus. Okay? Because I don't know how else we're going to get by. I really don't. It is terrifying that people condone the abuse of a child. And there's all kinds of child abuse being condoned now. My God. I just seen on the Twitter the other day, somebody posted an event. There was an adult in fetish gear on a pole, mostly naked, in front of adults with small children. I don't understand. We're devolving down in, what is this, Sodom and Gomorrah? I don't want to live in Sodom and Gomorrah with y'all. Can we do better?
I know we can do better, folks.
I want to do better. I want to do better with you guys as a community. I've lived here my whole life. This is my home.
But it's going to take us being responsible, and I just don't see that, okay? So what is it going to take for us to start being responsible as a society, okay, as a community? What is it going to take, okay? Because I don't know. My wife and I have been out here we've been out on the streets for 3 years,
We're in year 3. We'll be 3 years in December, and we have no doubt that we will probably have to do this for a good long time, because there's so many people whose hearts are so filled with hate. You know, they're hiding behind their little Black Lives Matter signs and their LGBTQ signs and all this, that, and the third, but the hate in their hearts is just fomenting, and it's real. It's very, very real.
So
and it's sad, and they don't want to acknowledge it. So this is why everybody just walks past here, because it's like, you know, you just can't admit, I guess, that you haven't been doing anything about this, or maybe you can't admit that you don't care about this, and maybe you don't care because our daughter is black, maybe you don't care because you don't like us. I'm not sure, but a burned up, abused child not wanting justice, this lady that came by here today, thumbing up her nose, this guy calling us names, I mean, we have a folder of public abuse, a folder where we're called all types of abusive names and harassed over fighting for justice for our child. Y'all, this is a sick, sick, sick thing. And we need to talk about it. Go ahead, babe.
Folks, like I said, I'm not sure what it's going to take for us to start being responsible as a society, but we're going to be out here asking for that, okay? And we're just making a suggestion. That's all we're doing. We're out here making a suggestion. Okay, we're not telling you that you have to do this. Obviously, you don't have to do it because you're not.
And we're not here to force you. I mean, nowadays, There are people that will force you to refer to them in some way or be some way or whatever. We're not out here forcing you.
No.
We are suggesting.
We are committed to making the suggestions because it's good for society, okay? It's good for society to be responsible, to respond to critical situations in an appropriate manner. That's good, okay? That makes us more efficient. That creates positive growth. Okay,
and we want to make sure that the children in our community are safe. I mean, when we're out here telling you that our daughter was abused by a politician's relative and then put through a back door in the hospitals and the courts so they could kill her, she survived only via the grace of God. Only via the grace of God. That's it. So when we're telling you all this, where is the concern for the children? Where's the concern for the other victims? And I can assure you people, we have turned over information that indicates multiple victims from that house, and nothing's being done. Not a damn thing.
No, these people
Not
are being protected.
We were criminally cited on Friday, and we've been down to the feds and the police and turned over all this information. They don't care because they don't want to acknowledge me and my husband as anybody. Even the victims of this horrific crime. They don't want to acknowledge our daughter because they don't want to acknowledge what they did, because powerful people should, by all rights, be arrested over this. And then we need to take a good hard look at the system and make sure that other people are not
being
subjected to this type of tampering and inappropriate behavior. You know, I'm literally sitting here stunned. I thought the minute we turned over the information, Scott's sworn testimony that he had an underage relationship with the perpetrator's brother, I thought the Forum Law Group would be shut down and the man would be in cuffs. But no. Instead, I received a criminal citation. You know, and then my daughter was ignored and disregarded again. And my husband, they got directly in his face and screamed, "I don't care about your daughter." What kind of society have we built here? What is going on? Who have we hired to run things? Satan? That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. That's why I say the community needs Jesus, okay? Because these people that we've been dealing with, I can tell you for sure they need Jesus. They need Jesus, okay? It's not an option. They need to ask for forgiveness. They need to ask for repentance. None of this has been good for the community. This started in 2007. Now, you'd be lying if you didn't acknowledge how the city has gone to shit since this cover-up started. April 12th, 2007 was the beginning of this chaos within our system, okay? And then now they've spent 16 years trying to cover it up. So just imagine what this story would look like on the national stage. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. But we can turn that around, right?
That's the hope.
This community could look more supportive. You can change what you were doing. You have the ability to change in an instant if you want to. And that's why I recommend asking Jesus into your heart. If you don't want to, that's okay. But that's who's keeping me safe. Okay, so that's my suggestion, really, because if you are so filled with hate, then you need the assistance. You really do. So,
Folks,
again, just a suggestion.
All we're asking is for people to be responsible here, okay? We just want people held accountable. There were rules and laws on the books when our daughter was abused, okay? They should have gone into effect. It should concern you that none of them went into effect, okay? It should concern you that we are out here still talking about what happened 16 years ago. That should concern you.
And you should have some regard for the victim. I ask everybody, please, have some regard for the victim, because she's still suffering, because we are still out here advocating for her to get acknowledgement and justice and help. And I don't care how long ago a child was abused. They absolutely deserve redress. Like when the Catholic Church, all those priests were abusing those kids, I would never say that an adult who had been abused as a child should never tell their story and should not get redress or acknowledgement or help. And if that's the way you feel towards our daughter, that is not okay. Okay?
That's not an appropriate response.
It's not okay.
That's not an appropriate response. Okay,
we got to work on this. We got to work on this.
We're going to be out here. We're going to be out here working on this and helping you work through this because we need to be better. Humanity is under assault right now. Okay?
We need to be better as a team.
The people in power, they don't care about any of us. Okay? And they want us fighting. Okay? Amongst each other. They want you to feel upset and irritated with us. That's what they want. That's why they leave us out here. That's why they're not being responsible with this situation. Okay?
And I want to be clear. We have not taught our children to hate. Our children live in this community. We don't make hate a thing in our home, okay? So even though we've received a lot of abuse in this community, we still consider you guys our teammates. We still have to work together. We still have to find a way to talk about this and be reasonable with one another. But again, me and my husband, we're past the race issue, but everybody else is struggling with it. And it's just simply a component of this case. But it's the corruption that I'm so incredibly concerned about. I mean, I'm concerned about the racism too, but that's just something that we've been working on and working on and working on since the dawn of time, and we do need to keep working on that. But it's going to be really difficult to do if our courts are being rigged and people are being treated unfairly, because that's how you start radicalizing people. You know, they go into prison and they come out more hardened and more hardened, and if they're getting an unfair shake, then in the courts, then you're causing more of an upset, and so on and so forth. It's not okay. I will tell you what, I mean, if me and my husband weren't followers of Christ, we would have already turned to violence. And there's plenty of people who claim to be followers of Christ who always turn to violence. So that is not our path. We're also dedicated pacifists. That's why we run this protest like this. I wish more activists in this city would look at this model, because at the end of the day, you need to be able to communicate, what your needs are without hurting people or burning things down. I believe that about our public officials as well. I'm disgusted with these wars and stuff. People in the modern age should be able to talk through their problems like adults. That's part of growing up, learning to communicate. But that's not something we focus on here in our society. Children are not being helped to communicate really in schools and stuff. We're not really teaching our children how to navigate in society. And maybe that's because too many people are focused on abusing kids instead of helping kids. Because I see a lot of kids being manipulated and harmed in our society, including by their own parents. And I've had plenty of people who claim to be parents and who are parents that walk by this and, shut up, go away, I guess most people think that an abused child should not be fought for. I mean, my daughter doesn't even have an attorney. Every attorney in this nation right now, I guess, works for the devil. I keep thinking of that movie, The Devil's Advocate, because why doesn't our daughter at least have an attorney? There has been new information surfaced, and it's very disturbing, you guys. We are disturbed. Law enforcement won't even communicate with us. They criminally cited us. They want us to shut up. I mean, I can't even talk about the information. I don't want to show it to anybody because it's stressful.
It's that disturbing, folks.
It's that distressing and that disturbing and that stressful. So this is actually, there's a new level to this thing that we're trying to deal with. So we're just going to keep getting out here. We're both really tired. 'Cause like I said, this whole thing with my brother, we've been helping him because we feel so bad, because this is only happening to him because we're out here fighting, but we can't just be quiet.
No, we can't stop,
You cannot be quiet about public corruption in your courts and your hospitals.
Not in the face of
and
injustice,
in your media,
folks. You cannot be quiet in the face of injustice.
No.
And we will not. We will not.
This
we
is
are literally being driven by God to be out here, to help people, to help them come together, to help them. And I know we're loud and I know we're irritating you, but you should not feel irritated, okay? You should you should want this sorted out. You should want this sorted out.
It's a blessing.
Not just for us, not just for our daughter, but for you, for your community, for this society. Okay? You should want it sorted out.
It's a blessing for us that we can't even believe that we're out here and that we made it through some of the most difficult terrain in this fight. I mean, we have fought and fought and fought. I mean, this has been such a huge battle. And you know, another piece of this battle is getting out here and telling everybody about it when we're being shut down, you know, totally shut down and disregarded by the media, totally discriminated against. It's so obvious. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? The news around here is just for a certain kind of people. You only cover a certain kind of news. You know, I noticed the ladies who got raped by the jogger rapists, they're in the paper. They're advocating for new laws, but we can't advocate for our child after she was abused and molested. That makes no sense to me.
No, and those women deserve to be advocated for.
They do.
Absolutely, because that kind of injustice shouldn't be going on either.
Absolutely, they should, but why are they in the paper and we can't even get one little article? It's not fair. It makes it a lot harder to tell our story. And I can't even tell you the PTSD and the re-victimization of not only having to repeat it to you guys and downtown twice a week, but then to have to go online and re-explain it and re-explain it and re-explain it, you know? And then, you know, to constantly and consistently, you're irresponsible. That's inappropriate. That's inappropriate.
Thank you very much,
That's inappropriate. That's inappropriate.
I appreciate you.
Inappropriate.
Thank you. Lemonade stand man.
Yeah, that's inappropriate.
Thank you very much.
This is what I mean. People who come by and discourage parents for fighting for their abused child. We must be in hell, y'all, and we need to get out of hell.
But it's fine if you want to be. You know what? If you want to be,
that way, it's your choice.
If you want to be a nasty person, come on, bring it down. Come on, let's get it out. Let's work through it.
Let's work out the racism because Lemonade Stand Man. Now he's a perfect example of somebody who is full of hate, full of racism, and he can't get over it. And so there are a lot of people in our community that are literally struggling with that. And that is something he's going to have to deal with, whether he deals with it now or he deals with it later. You know, but the day of judgment will be here. You can explain yourself to Jesus. If you feel okay with allowing this in your community, just remember that is your choice and something you will live with and die with. Okay? If you never change, and that is what you want, and that is what you choose, then that is something that you're going to take with you on your journey. That you heard about this, you knew about this, and you didn't do anything about it. And when God asks you about it, you know, when you get to the pearly gates, you can stand there and shrug your shoulders and make whatever excuse you want. But I personally don't want to be left, in terms of my beliefs, I'm not going to have to go visit with Jesus and tell him that I left my burned, abused daughter, you know, by the wayside because I was too afraid to stand up. That's not going to happen for me. That's not going to happen for my husband. That's not going to happen for our family. We are going to continue to stand up because God commands you to protect your children and stand up for your children. Period. If you're not going to protect your children and stand up for your children, you probably shouldn't have them. You know what I'm saying? Because that is something that they need very much. I would never, ever in my life would I want to be the kind of person that would say to a parent, do not fight for your abused child. Just, it's really something that I hope that if you are somebody that has done that to us or is doing that to us, I really hope you seek Jesus. That's my suggestion. You don't have to take it, but that's who I think you should seek out.
And I really honestly believe that's probably the only person that can actually help you.
Yeah.
Folks, like my wife said, we're tired.
Yeah.
We're going to keep getting out here, but it's hard, folks. It's really hard, especially when people like Lemonade Stand Man come by and abuse us, okay, and harass us. That's not cool. It's really not cool.
It's not a good look for the community to have us out here on the corner while people are being abusive. But again, something law enforcement is allowing to go on because they're mad at us because this happened to us, which is so absolutely childish. since it was, all the Harvard educated and big educated judges and doctors and attorneys and all this stuff. They thought this was all fun and games when they thought no one was ever going to hear about it. Now everybody's hearing about it. It's not fun and games anymore. They want to shut up. And I want to let parents know that when your child is the victim of abuse, generally, a very typical response that I am seeing is people try to paint you as the abuser if you speak up. Because nobody wants to talk about child abuse in our communities, on our planet, and our world, because we've got $1 billion sex trafficking industry running, and, kids are being fed into that left and right. And so, the whole subject of child abuse is it's very taboo. And people just want you to shut up about it. They don't really care that our daughter, people are not really caring that our daughter was also the victim of, tampering in the legal system. This is treason and sedition. But people can't even see it because, I don't know, they can't get past the race issue and the fact that this happened to our family. And I guess since we're not a white family or the right family, or I don't know who this could have happened to that people would have cared about more, because we've never gotten cared about since the minute this happened. I mean, they threw her out of the hospital all burned up and didn't treat her. So I don't know who would be the right family for this to have occurred to, that people will care. But we're just going to keep banging away at it.
I do know one thing. They certainly picked the right family to do it to in order to get away with doing something like this.
Right, so that is where, the issue of being targeted is very real.
Folks, that means that they had think tanks, and we're not the first ones who have experienced this. Maybe we're one of the only survivors, though.
We made it out alive.
We're the only ones that can actually stand up and say something about it.
We made it out alive, and I'm telling you, I mean, for everybody that's been listening to this rally, I mean, this was a very complicated story to even put together. This has been a very complicated battle to fight, and it's a very complicated battle to communicate because we are on our own,
We shouldn't be on our own, but that's where we are.
We're just left on our own in America, the free country, where you should just be able to get an attorney and go to the police and make a report and get help and things like that. It's not set up like that for us here. So it does feel a little bit more like China or North Korea, once you are kicked down into the second class and third class citizen row where we sit. We're all the way in the back seat, and it's just, we're going to have to discuss it because we're not going to agree to that. We're going to continue not to agree to be treated like this. So we're going to shut it down because we're exhausted.
And listen, folks, the sun is shining down on us because God is happy that we are out here. And God is happy that we are out here because we're not just out here for our daughter. We're not just out here for our family. We are out here for you. Okay? We are out here to try and help make you better people. Okay, and that's one of the driving forces for us to continue getting out here. We are not giving up on you. Okay, God has not given up on you, and God wants you to know that He is here for you. Okay, He is trying to help you. Okay, on your ascent, but you have to be a willing participant. Okay, you have to let go of that hate that is in your heart. Okay, you have to want to be a responsible person. Okay, you have to care about your human brothers and sisters.
A responsible earthling.
And like I said, folks, humanity is under assault. Okay, contrary to popular belief, there are not too many people on this planet. But I can tell you right now, there are too many people that don't like people on this planet.
And there's too many people behaving so irresponsibly on this planet. And then, when you try to help them improve and change, all we've gotten here is just backlash. They don't even want to talk about where they're going wrong. And I'm sorry, you can't evolve that way.
That's not an evolutionary stance, folks. And we are evolutionary beings. Every single day we wake up, we are moving forward. Okay, we are moving forward, whether you like it or not.
No, you're making
as backwards as you try to go, you are moving forward. Okay, so here it is, folks. We're going to shut it down today, but we're going to be back next week.
Absolutely.
As many weeks as it takes, okay, to get this thing turned around. Because this community deserves to be a responsible community. Okay? This community deserves to be an appropriate and diverse community. Okay? You don't realize what kind of happiness and joy that would actually bring. But the way things are right now, it is not that way. And it seems to be getting worse. But like I said, we are moving forward. And so here it is. I want you to take this with you. And every single time we are here, we are going to give this to you because you deserve it, okay? You need it, okay? Here it is. I am the value.
I am the value.
You are the value.
You are the value.
We are the value.
We are the value. I am the value. You are the value. We are the value. I am the value. You are the value. We are the value. I am the value. You are the value. We are the value.
Folks, we're not talking about money. We're not talking about gold or silver. We are not talking about cryptocurrency or any kind of digital anything. Folks, we are talking about your very life. That is the only thing that actually has any value. Okay, and everything else is relative. Everything else is relative. Okay, you are a sovereign. Okay, you are a free will sovereign being with built-in authority. And I'm telling you, it is time for you to reclaim that. Because the people who want to destroy you, they are trying to use your authority against you. And they will if you let them.
Yeah, look how they've dragged this community into this. You know what I'm saying? You guys have to respond because they won't. And you have to remember, it's a reflection on them that they won't respond, but it's also a reflection on you that you won't respond. You know what I'm saying? And so on and so forth. You shouldn't not be responding because you don't like me and my husband. Again, I ask you to have some regard for the victim here. We're talking about a 59-pound second grader, okay, who was brutally assaulted and left without treatment. We need to discuss this, and we're going to keep putting this back on the table. Me and my husband don't think the American people should be leaving this off the table. The GOP and the Dems shouldn't be leaving this off the table. This is all the way inappropriate for a multitude of reasons, and there's all kinds of media outlets ignoring it, and this has to stop.
And folks, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
That's right.
There is so much of this going on, okay? And folks, we are a testament to what is happening here, but it is pervasive throughout our entire society, and we are not having responsible discussions about it, but we need to. So with that, folks, we are going to leave you with yourselves, and hopefully you will reflect, okay? You will reflect on this protest.
And
okay?
and again, I just want to leave you with this. I suggest that you talk to Jesus about this, for real, because, and if you haven't ask for his help, I say ask for it, because I mean that's who me and my husband are relying on every single day. So and that's who my family is relying on. So I encourage you to personally and privately ask for Jesus to take the hate out of your heart, because there's a lot of hate being harbored in a lot of hearts around here, and you know what, there is a way to change that. So thank you, Multnomah Village. We'll see you next week. God bless.